We on another day in the life of a designer. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Make sure that you share with your friends and family. And make sure you comment your, opinions in the chat as well too. You know what I'm saying? Any questions you might have during the stream, please feel free. So that way, we can get your point of view as well too. What we're gonna be talking about tonight is, 2018, the first brick. You feel me? Every, brand, uh, business has, the first few bricks that they lay for their foundation. And that's what we primarily gonna get into tonight is those bricks, the first bricks that I had to lay in order to start Dreams of Ruler Street Fashion and just Dreams of Rulers overall. So, let's get right into it. Of course, we like to have an opening question as well too. Question is, what gap in fashion did I see that made me believe a new fashion house needed to exist? For me personally, what I saw when it came to, the fashion industry and specifically, street fashion and also luxury fashion is that there was a gap between the two as far as, what they both, I guess you could say, meant, but at the same time, you could tell that they both coincided just because of how well, luxury brands collab with street fashion brands. And, of course, you see, endless results of the work speaking for itself. You feel me? So, Dreams of Rulers was built, from the belief that there was an opportunity between, street fashion culture's authenticity and, luxury fashion's craftsmanship, storytelling, and longevity. You feel me? Every brand starts with a gap. The biggest brands don't just create problems, they identify something missing within the industry or their niche. You feel me? And most brands, they typically ask, what can I sell? What can, I follow as far as trends? What product is popular? But a fashion house asks what's missing within the industry, what perspective is not being represented, and what experience does the customer not have. And the gap that, we primarily wanted to tap into was street fashion has always had culture, creativity, authenticity, but often lacked the storytelling, refinement, and, long-term positioning associated with, luxury fashion houses. Luxury has heritage, craftsmanship, legacy, storytelling, exclusivity, and street fashion just simply has, the community, identity, the rebellion behind it, the self-expression, and, cultural influence. I felt like, the brand that I was creating, Dreams of Rulers, fit right in between the two because, I'm building something to where you see the craftsmanship, you see, the, legacy, the storytelling within it. Then as well, from a streetwear side of things, you see the community being built. You see, the rebellion to, follow my own rules, not necessarily, go the way the game is played. And then on top of that, you see a lot of self-expression within, my designs, within my signature style. So, why street fashion deserves luxury standards? Street fashion is not less than. The issue was never the culture. The opportunity was elevating the, execution. Taking, street inspired ideas seriously is primarily what, the marketplace overall needs to do. You know what I'm saying? And That was my initial thing. But because it's like, you know, luxury brands want to associate with the streets, but they don't want, to embody it. You feel what I'm saying? A lot of their collections still remain quote unquote high end. You feel me? They never really, try to market for, each division of people's financial budgets. So, the issue was never the culture, it was the opportunity, was elevating the execution. You know what I'm saying? Creating intentional collections instead of random releases, building, garments with meaning, treating street fashion with the same respect as traditional luxury. And the street has always created influence. The question is, who builds the institution around that influence? You feel me? And not a lot of brands have built that institution. They just going around it. You feel me? Just trying to, tap into the energy of it, but not give it a home. And the personal reason behind the brand, you know what I'm saying? Growing up in Willenboro, you get that sense of, you know what I'm saying, upper class. Even though, you see a lot of people with hood mentalities as well too. So it's like a blend. You feel me? Like that. The environment looks nice, but the people, it's just the same people that just got out the hood because they had nicer jobs. You feel me? Like people coming up from nothing, building families and, trying to, develop a sustainable environment for their, kids, grandkids, etc. You know what I'm saying? And the main thing is that, the environments that we were in had a lot of instability because, you got people dealing with different struggles as far as finances, as far as, living arrangements, things of that sort. Like I said, they just came from the bottom. So, you got, 8, 10, 15 people in a house. Even though the house looked nice, lawn looked nice, everything looked nice. But, some families are just big and, couldn't afford bigger homes. So you see situations like that. Then on top of that, for me, I never really had, a sustainable household, even though my mom ended up getting married when I was like 7, had my stepdad around, had my dad around. But first of all, my dad didn't give a shit about me. He was just following orders by my mom because he didn't want to, deal with child support and other ramifications that, my mom could have handled in a certain way. Then, barely, spent time with him at first. And then my mom just made him do it. So that was just, my part of my unstable environment, going back and forth. Feel me? As a young kid. And, trying to find creative outlets through, poetry, graphic design and fashion. And, it primarily started with fashion, art and, poetry. I'll write, girls love letters in, class. Then, I come home, start sketching, different cartoon characters with my friends, Avery, Brad, and Robert, while we were watching shows like Dragon Ball Z and shit like that. And then, with the fashion, I had a friend named Julian. People know him as Max Giuliano now. But We primarily, you know what I'm saying, would get all rare shit. Even though our moms were working hard as hell to make sure that we was good, make sure our families was good, they always, you know, made sure that we get like the rare clothes, the rare sneakers, you feel me? PEs, you know, Jordans and shit. So that's kind of like, you know, just the setup. And then, you know, having to learn craftsmanship and tailoring with James Baldwin, you feel me? Well, I was 18. Understanding, you know, branding before launching shit. Just understanding, you know, the fashion business was, you know, my learning experience with James Baldwin. You know, the brand comes from seeing potential in, you know, overlooked places. Dreams of Rulers represents the idea that greatness can come from places people overlook. And, you know, the gap that we ultimately saw within street and luxury fashion was that, you know, these brands, they try to make you look like who they want you to look like. Here at Dreams of Rulers, our main goal is to make you feel like who you are, give you a mirror, and let you express yourself through our clothes. You feel me? Dreams of Rulers represents the growth evolution that you eventually, you know, end up going through during your life journey. You feel me? And we just want to show you different seasons of that growth. You feel me? Whereas these other brands, you know what I'm saying? They release products, follow seasons, focus on transactions. You see, we're going from the clothing brand to the fashion house. Fashion house builds a philosophy, creates archives, develops a design language, a visual language, influences culture, builds long-term value, discusses how every collection contributes to a larger picture, larger story. You know, from the mud, describes as transformation, you know what I'm saying, resilience and growth. And then, you know, the future collections only, you know what I'm saying, evolve that philosophy. You know, building wealth through solving the gap, you know what I'm saying? When you got growth evolution or, you know, just a valuable brand solution to a niche problem or industry problem, you know, your brand becomes something meaningful. It solves something meaningful. You know what I'm saying? Financial success comes from creating something people connect with, building trust on intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? Develop a recognizable identity, creating multiple ways for people to experience the brand. The goal isn't just selling garments, it's building an asset. You know, the first brick was the belief. The first brick wasn't, you know, the website, it wasn't the first product. It was a belief, you know what I'm saying? There should be a fashion house that represents the creativity, the resilience, and ambition of the street while pursuing the standards, discipline, and longevity of a luxury fashion brand. You feel me? And, you know, the questions you should ask yourself as you know, while building the fashion house, understanding, you know, the marketing gaps in your industry. Number one, what gap do you see in your industry? Number two, what problem made you start creating or made you start creating? Number three, are you building a product or solving, you know, something bigger? Number four, what would not exist if you never created? Dreams of Rulers didn't start because the world needed another clothing brand. It started because there was a perspective that needed a home. These streets have always produced creativity, style, and culture, some way, shape, or form. You feel me? Whether with you or without you. The mission is building a house that preserves that energy while elevating the standard. The first brick was never the garment, it was the vision. You know what I'm saying? Overall, you got to understand where you come from, where you at, and where you plan on going. With Dreams of Rulers, the whole goal was to make sure that, first of all, we understood who we were, we understood where we came from, and ultimately, we knew where we were going. We didn't understand, every direction, that was set forth in front of us, but we made a way. And that's ultimately what you got to do for your brand as well, too. You know what I'm saying? The vision will tell you the things you don't need to know. Your belief isn't something that you don't even know that it will exist, you feel me, until you fully create it. So you got to put the work in. You got to trust the process. You got to put a solid plan together. You got to do the research. And you got to put that time and execution in order to make your dreams and goals come to fruition. You got to stop playing with your time. You got to stop letting people waste your time. And you got to stop letting those distractions distract you. It's your time. Every day that you wake up, your time just don't come around because, a higher being says so. No. Once you woke up and you had a clear mind, or, you're able to wake up and see the world, you had that opportunity. You have that opportunity each and every day to be great. It's just a process, and you got to get started as soon as you can. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, we wanted to, start basing these lives more on focusing in on the building blocks of how, I was able to build my brand. So that way you can take those same building blocks and implement it into, what you're building right now. And, you know what I'm saying? See, what works for you and what doesn't. Because it's ultimately, just understanding how things work, putting the time in, putting the effort in, and trust the process, you feel me? Make sure that y'all check out that From the Mud collection that's out now. It's on our website. We also got, the spoken word album available on all streaming platforms. And then we also got the, poetry book, which is available on all book platforms and at your local library. Sorry, y'all, I'm just a little tired as well, too. I appreciate everybody that's been tapping in with us. Appreciate all the day ones. I appreciate, everyone that has been, showing support, subscribing to our channels, liking our content. It's helping us to grow, but we need more. It's not enough. It's definitely not enough. I'm tired of fucking going to my fucking job for niggas that don't even fucking respect me. I'm tired of fucking, being associated with people that don't fucking respect my work, my time, and my effort, and let alone the person that I am. Tired of being fucking related to fucking individuals that don't do shit with their life, but have the time to talk about what you do with yours and don't even know what the fuck you doing. I'm tired of fucking everybody, to be real with you. Like, this shit is getting old. Like, I'm putting in hella effort for niggas not to even see me. So, I appreciate everybody, but on the real, niggas is getting, this shit getting old. I'm 34 years old. I've been better than all these designers that's out here. Everybody's some trash. Louis Vuitton trash, fucking Stussy trash, everybody trash, bro. I'm the one. I'm the motherfucker that got it, bro. And if you rock with me, rock with me. If you don't, fuck you. That's how I feel. Keep visualizing your purpose. I'm out.